Thank you for joining us for this welcome team training video. The purpose of this video is to give you guys some practical and spiritual instructions on how to be an effective welcome team member. See, people come to church. It's a big church. We have a lot of people coming here. They need to feel the love of Christ, and you are the face of this ministry. So it's our heart for us to share with you what is it that we're expecting of you? What are the things that you should be thinking of as a welcome team member? So I trust if you listen and apply these instructions to your service, you're going to be an effective tool in the hand of God to reach people that are coming to church. So when you think of hospitality, what do you think of? What organizations are writing the books on hospitality? Is it Marriott? Is it Disney? Okay, these organizations, these are businesses that make a lot of money, okay? See, I believe, biblically, we as Christians should be writing the book. And so that's what our goal is today. We want to open the Word of God and show you, biblically, why we do hospitality, why have a welcome team. We want to write the book on hospitality, and when people come here, that they're going to experience Christ through you. You see, the Bible has a lot to say about being hospitable. In 1 Peter chapter 4, starting in verse 8, it says, above all things, have fervent love for one another, for love will cover a multitude of sins. You see, fervent love, what do I think of when I hear fervent? It's strong, it's aggressive, it's, hi, how can I help you? Welcome to Calvary Chapel. That's the fervent love that we should have on the hospitality team as people are coming to church. And then it says to be hospitable to one another without grumbling. Okay, because sometimes we can put on a face that's happy, but inside we're not really happy. And so people can see right through that. We want to be Spirit-filled. We want to be overflowing with the fruit of the Spirit. And so when we are greeting people with fervent love, it's a genuine thing, and they can feel the love of Christ in us. So if we were to turn to Hebrews 13, verse 2, we would see, do not forget to entertain strangers, for by so doing, some have unwittingly entertained angels. You see, every single person that walks through that door, we should think this could be an angel from God, or even if it weren't, it's somebody who needs a touch of the love of Christ. So what does it mean to be Spirit-filled? Well, if you're filled with the Holy Spirit, and we're actually praying for the Spirit to fill our lives before we come in and serve, here's what our lives should look like. Our service should look like what it says in Galatians 5, verses 22 and 23. It gives us a list of the fruit of the Spirit. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So these things should be evident. We should pray about these things. We should think about these things before we're coming in to serve. Am I patient? Do I feel like I don't have patience today? Sometimes we can struggle with that, or long-suffering. And simply ask God to give you those things. Look for those things. Ask Him to fill you afresh, and He'll give you all the help that you need to be filled with the Spirit. So keep in mind, when you come in to serve, there's at least two things that you're representing. Number one is Christ. We need to represent Jesus. And what does that look like in your life? Well, we already talked about it. You should be filled with the Spirit. And so that list of characteristics given in Galatians, that's what it means to look like Christ, to have a life that looks like Christ. So we must represent Him. We need to be loving, okay? But number two, we need to represent Calvary Chapel. So you should go online, do yourself a favor, go online, take a look at the statement of faith and review it, go over it, make sure that, hey, this is what I believe. And if you have any questions, email us, contact us. We'd be happy to sit through and talk about any of those statements, because here's the thing. When you put a badge on that says you represent Calvary Chapel, you should actually represent Calvary Chapel. So we would hate for you to say that you represent something that you really actually don't represent at all. So be wise and do your homework. And if you have any questions, let us know. As I said before, you're the face of our ministry, and you're the first people that our congregation sees when they come to church. So here are three things that you should keep in mind as you're welcoming the body to church. We need to focus on connecting people to God, connecting people to people, and connecting people to outreach. Everything that we do in this church, we should have those three tenets in our hearts and in our minds. Let's talk quickly about maybe some prerequisites. If you're going to come in to serve, we want to make sure that your life is conducive to service. And so what does that mean? That means, number one, first and foremost, make sure that you're sitting in for at least one service a week, okay? You need to be getting filled with the Word of God. And I heard a wise man once say, if I don't have $5 in my pocket, I can't give it to somebody. So we need to be going in, sitting in, listening to the Word of God, worshiping God with our fellow believers, and being filled so that we can pour out effectively on others. Number two, take this seriously. Give a year commitment to this. We're going to count on you to fill a position, and it's going to help your team if it's consistent. It's going to help your the body, that you're going to develop relationships with people. They're going to feel family if they see you every single week as they come to church. That's what we want to do. That is the heart behind the hospitality ministry. When people come to church, they have a familiar face. They have somebody to connect to. So when you do this with passion, people can see that. They can tell. It makes a huge difference, a huge impact when you're having fervent love consistently every single week. So for some reason, if you're not going to be able to make it in for service on a particular day, contact your overseer in advance, give him an email, give him a phone call, let us know so that, number one, we know that you're okay, and if you need prayer for anything, we can pray for you. But if not, if it's just, I have family in town, whatever, that's fine. But just let us know so that we can get your position filled. We're going to expect that you come to our pre-service meetings because we get to connect with our fellow servants, have some spiritual thoughts, have some training, and just become more effective at what we're doing through that time. So make sure that your service here in the hospitality ministry is an actual calling from God. Pray about that. Ask Him. Am I called to be here? Because if you're actually called to serve, number one, you're going to have that passion that is needed to have fervent love on others as they come. So make sure, pray about it, and let this be something that you're actually called to do. If not, that's okay. Let us know. We would love to help interview you, find out what your giftings are, what your skill sets are, and we'll connect you to the right ministry so that you're serving in the area where you're called to serve. Maybe some spiritual gift test would be an interesting thing for you to do on your own time. You can look online and maybe take a spiritual gifts inventory of yourself. And here's the thing. It becomes quite obvious when somebody's serving as a greeter or as a hospitality team member, they've got something on their shoulders, they're burdened by something, they're not smiling. It becomes a grumbling thing, which 1 Peter 4 clearly says, be hospitable without grumbling. So this needs to be something, if you're an extrovert, you're smiling, you're happy, this could be the ministry for you. So here, the bottom line is, you gotta love people. This is a ministry where you are fervently loving people. That's agape love. That's that godly love. And so we need to look at those people. We need to view the people that are coming to church as people who need a touch of Christ, and we need to be willing to be a tool in the hand of God to touch those lives for Him. So in doing so, as you're serving, you're here with a blue shirt on, you have a badge on, you're serving in the house of the Lord. Your life should look a certain way. And so 1 Timothy 3 has some neat qualifications of somebody who's a servant in the church. I would take a look at those. This is the kind of life that we should have, a life that's above reproach, so that when somebody comes in, they see somebody whose life looks godly inside and outside the church. So another way to view the hospitality ministry, what does that word sound like? Hospital, right? I hear hospital in there. The truth is, people come in, when they come to church, a lot of people really have stuff going on in their life, whether it be an addiction, a struggling marriage, financial situation, a sickness, prodigal child, whatever it might be. Maybe it's a sin situation. People come to church and they put their Sunday best clothes on. They have their Sunday best face on. But if you're filled with the Holy Spirit and you're able to see through that, God is going to reveal circumstances to you where you can provide ministry to somebody who's really in need. If we're looking for those things, when you come in to serve, what is your goal? What is your objective? If your goal, and I'm having in my mind, what am I going to do when I come in to be, as I'm greeting people today, I'm just going to be passing out Calvary Connections, then guess what? That's all you're going to do. You're going to pass out Calvary Connections and you're going to go home. But if you come in to serve with the understanding is like, Lord, please use me today to touch somebody's life as I'm passing out Calvary Connections or saying hi to people, then he is going to meet you in that prayer. That's a prayer that blesses his heart, and he is going to use you. You'll be blown away. If you say, Lord, give me an opportunity to touch somebody's life today, you're going to be blown away at how he answers that prayer. And you're going to be an effective minister in the house of God. All right, so as you're serving, you should be somebody who's highly visible, who's highly approachable. You should be salt and light of this dark and tasteless world. And so if that's the case, people are going to feel comfortable with you. They're going to see you. They're going to know that you're a representative of the church. They're going to trust you. You're going to be able to use that to effectively serve them as they're here. And so here's the thing. Sometimes you're going to find that sheep bite. And so as you're a greeter, as you're serving, you're going to come with somebody with love, with joy, and you're going to find out that they snap at you. They say something, they treat you in a manner that might not be appropriate. If that happens, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, view that for what it is. We do not battle flesh and blood. We battle principalities. The enemy is at work in that person's life, and don't be triggered by the flesh. If you're filled with the Holy Spirit, we acknowledge those circumstances for what they are, then you're going to embrace that as, this is what I prayed for. This is exactly what I asked God for. I asked him to use me today. This person obviously needs a little touch of Jesus, and so I want to be available for that, and I'm not going to respond in the flesh. I'm going to respond in the Spirit and touch that person's life. I'm not going to take it personally. So as you are serving, you should have a concierge mindset. I mean, if you've ever been to a fancy hotel, there's somebody there that greets you with a smile, that's warm, that's welcoming. Their job is to meet any need that you have. So be flexible. You might be serving one place one week, and your overseer the following week has a different need. He might ask you, hey, we really have a need over here on the other side of the sanctuary lobby, or can you go take this person over to the benevolence office or the biblical counseling office or whatever it might be. Be flexible. This is an opportunity for God. We don't want to put him in a box as you're serving. And think outside the box. Be ready to move. Be ready to be flexible so that God can use you effectively in the places where you're being sent to serve. You have an ever-changing job description. There might even be things on this video when you watch it and you might say, oh, that's a little different. That happens. This is a constantly changing job. But the most important thing is that we're flexible. We move with how the Spirit of God is leading this church. That's what's so cool about Calvary Chapel. It's a Spirit-led church, and we listen to the voice of God and we follow it. So if you have that mindset as a servant, you're going to be successful. God's going to use you. So as you're serving, it's very, very important. It's imperative, actually, that you know your property. You know this church property. You know where the banquet halls are, meeting room 1 and 2, the auditorium, the chapel. Where's the hub? You know, where is the HSM room or the high school ministry, or where's Calvary Kids? Where are these things? Know your property. Get a map. Ask your overseer. So you're probably going to be taken on a tour of some point, but it's going to be so crucial that you know this property and are able to answer questions about the property, answer questions about what's happening on the property, upcoming events, current events. Something like, hey, is Christianity 101 going on right now? We should have answers for that. We should have answers for the premarital classes. Is there a baby dedication today? Where is that happening? So be connected with your overseers, get connected, get informed on current events and upcoming events so that we can be a conduit of information when people ask. Also, Calvary Chapel always has something new going on. There's always a special event. There's an Easter services, there's Christmas services, there's conferences. These are all events that happen in our sanctuary that this is our ministry. We need to provide hospitality on these ministries. And so as you have a service, a particular service that you typically serve at, you're on that team. Whenever we have these special events, we need to find a team. So I'm going to ask that everybody pray about each of these opportunities. That doesn't mean that you're mandated or that we're going to force you to go and serve at them. But what we are asking is that you ask God, say, this is my ministry. I want that conference to go well. I want to make sure that those needs are met, and ask, Lord, is this something that you want me to serve at? Participate in those things. Christmas and Easter, we have a tremendous outreach opportunity as people come to church. We don't even have to go anywhere to have outreach. They come right here to us. And it's so important that we're all just participating to make sure that those services happen and that we provide the love of Christ to people as they come to church. Also, with a property this size, it's going to also be very important that in the advent that there's some kind of a fire alarm or any kind of alarm that goes off in the sanctuary during church or whatever, that you know what your role is. So there's going to be some further training that we're going to ask you to go through. You're going to ask your overseers, hey, if a fire alarm were to go off, what would I do? Where would I stand? What would be my responsibilities? Make sure that you are very, very clear that you understand what your job description is in advent of an alarm situation. One of the cool things about having a church in Fort Lauderdale is that we have an incredibly transient community. There's a constant rotating door of new people that are coming to our church. This is a great opportunity to touch somebody for the first time, to touch their life for Christ. And so we need to be consistently thinking about, how do I identify new guests, new people that are coming to church and that have never even been here before. And you can tell, if you're aware of your surroundings, you're making eye contact, you're going to see them kind of looking around. They have that confused puppy look. And so when you see somebody that has that look, go approach them and ask them if you can help them. This is where you go from being a greeter to being a minister. Somebody comes in, you identify them as a new guest, you identify that somebody might have a problem or a challenge. You become a minister right then and there. You get to meet those needs. So a good place to start is to ask people that you see open-ended questions, such as, how can I serve you? Or is there anything that I can do for you today? So allow them to communicate to you, what is their need? Who are they? Get to know people and meet their needs. So when you identify a new guest, we have a welcome packet that we would like for you to give them. Inside that welcome packet, there's some information about the church. There's some coupons for some free coffee over in the grill or the cafe. Make sure they know that those are there. There's no strings attached. It's a gift from the church to you. We're happy you're here. So when you're on the welcome team, there's one thing to smile. That's important. There's another thing that we're making eye contact, but also body language is so important. If you're sitting back and you're leaning against the wall, your face is down, your shoulders are slouched, all of those things communicate, I'm not welcome, or I'm not interested in you, okay? So chewing gum, talking on your cell phone, texting, your body language, all of these things can interfere with effectively having fervent love with people. So make sure that we are not on our cell phones and so on, so that we can be fully focused on the task at hand. It's a huge thing on our pastor's heart to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to connect with new guests and make them feel warm, welcome, and at home. Being hospitable without grumbling. And so you might see that we're always trying to think outside the box. We're creating programs. We're having new ideas on how can we be hospitable and show the love of Christ to guests. And so be willing to participate, or at least pray about your participation in any programs or activities that would include showing the love of Christ to new folks that are coming to our church. So we would like to talk for a few minutes on your dress code. How do I dress when I come in to serve? There's a couple roles that are available here in the hospitality ministry. Number one, we're going to give everybody a blue shirt. It might be a t-shirt or it might be one of these polo shirts. And so we're going to ask that if you're on part of these, especially like at a station like this, at this welcome center, that you're wearing a blue shirt so that you're easily identifiable. You're in uniform. It's very professional looking, and people can easily spot you from across the sanctuary lobby and come and approach you if they have a question or a need. But if you're not wearing a blue shirt, you're in one of those other locations in the welcome team. we're going to ask that you wear casual professional business attire. And so what does that mean? That means that I'm going to dress in a way, we're at church. We're going to dress in a way that looks like we're at church. And here's a good rule of thumb. We're not legalistic. We're not pharisaical about any dress code. But here's what we are going to ask. We're going to ask that you keep in the forefront of your mind as you're getting ready, as you're getting dressed to come in to serve. Is there anything about my appearance that's going to take attention off of God and bring it onto me? And so that's what's cool about the blue shirt, because it's kind of takes the guesswork out of it. We hope that you would wear pants and closed-toed shoes while you're doing that, and pants that preferably aren't ripped. But if you're doing the casual professional business attire thing, just make sure as you look at yourself, is my shirt too loud? Is it too colorful? Is there anything about it that's just taking attention off of God and bringing it onto me? We don't want to do anything that causes that sort of distraction to people. And so I would say, even take a look in the mirror as you're coming. Make sure that I look appropriate, that there's nothing that is drawing attention onto my body. The world has one standard. The Bible has another. And we need to have a spirit of reverence for what's happening at church. And if you don't know what that word is, it's kind of like a $3 word there. Take a look the word reverence up. And let's be reverent in how we dress. Let us not conform to the image of the world. Rather, let's conform to the image of Christ and be humble in our appearance and our speech. So if you're getting ready for church, you're getting dressed, and you put your clothes on, and you ask yourself the question, I wonder if I should wear this. Let that be a trigger in your mind that says, put it back, pick something else out. And it probably is a wise thing. It's definitely a wise thing to have somebody who's mature in the faith take a look at your wardrobe and even say, hey, you know what? I wear this. I wouldn't wear that. Hold you accountable, because wisdom comes with a multitude of counselors. So that's a wise thing to do. And I think that you're going to avoid a lot of controversy and challenges if you were to do that. Another very important thing to think about is your hygiene. You're the face of the ministry. So showering is important. I mean, if I'm serving on an evening service and I've been fishing all day, I would want to make sure that I go home and take a shower first before coming in. We don't want to have anything of our flesh be a distraction to others as they're coming to church, especially our hygiene. Do a breath check. I mean, it's a very important thing. Make sure that you are a sweet-smelling aroma of the Lord to others as they're coming to church. As you're greeting, as you're on this hospitality team, you are the eyes and ears of the church. You're a gatekeeper of sorts. And so now we have a security team, a gatekeeper team, but you're going to be the eyes and ears of the church. So what does that mean? That means be aware of your surroundings. And if you see any erratic behavior, you see any behavior that's unbecoming of church people, let us know. Let your overseers know. Let your elders know. And here's what we want everybody to do. We want everybody to put this phone number, plug it into your phone. So if you see something that really requires a security presence, that you can make a phone call to the gatekeepers. And that number is 954-319-7676. And so plug that in your phones, make sure it's on your phone so that you can make a quick phone call if you need to. Now, if you were to see somebody who, maybe it's a spreading false doctrine thing, maybe it's handing out literature for their businesses or anything we just don't want to see that kind of activity here on a church property, give the gatekeepers a call. But in the meantime, do what you can to keep an eye on those folks so that we don't lose sight of them, because it wouldn't be helpful if we call them, the gatekeepers, and we come and then we ask, okay, well, where is he? Oh, I don't know. Keep your eyes on that individual. But here's what we're never asking you to do. We're never asking you to confront somebody who's a challenge. We're never asking you to put yourself in any danger whatsoever. So make sure that your elders are aware. Make sure that the pastoral staff is aware. Let your gatekeepers know. Try not to lose track of somebody who you perceive is up to no good. So as we are being hospitable without grumbling, having fervent love, also having a gatekeeper mentality that this is my church, I love the flock in there, and I'm going to protect them. And if we're aware of that and we're keeping those things in our minds, you're going to be a useful tool in the Lord's hands in another way. There are 3 major positions that we have available in the welcome team. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're cross-trained so that we know how to effectively perform each of these 3 positions. Position number 1, there's an exterior door greeter. So we want to make sure that as people are approaching the church building, that there's somebody with a warm, loving smile that's there to greet them and welcome them and make them feel at home. So what does that position look like? Well, first of all, it's outside. And I know I'm an outdoors guy. I like to be outside. Some people don't. But it's such a vital thing to be able to just open the door, show somebody love, show somebody a hospitable act, welcome them with a loving smile. And they're coming to church. You're gonna build relationships in that way as well. So there's a couple things that you can keep in mind as an exterior door greeter. There are a few tools and things to think about that will help you in your service. And number 1, there's some door stops. We use them in high traffic times when there's a lot of people coming. We've put the doorstop down. It frees our hands so that we can serve others. But as soon as those people have stopped coming, we would rather close the doors and just welcome people warmly with a smile. It's actually a really neat thing for somebody to see you open a door for them with a smile, making eye contact. So we want to make sure that we're thinking when we use the door stops. And so make sure we keep the doors closed as much as we can. Finally, as an exterior door greeter, as the service is exiting, we can exit greet as well. As people are being dismissed from church, we can open the doors for folks at that time, wishing them good night or have a great day, something along those lines. If you're not serving in the new believers room or with a communion setup or transition team, we would love for you to do exit greeting at that time. Also, always keep in mind that you're mobile. And so if somebody has a need and they don't know where the auditorium is, walk them there. You know, if you can really touch one person's life, that's a huge thing. So don't feel that you have to be trapped to a door. If you're going to really make a difference in somebody's experience here, walk that person all the way across the property if you need to. Think outside the box. You're not pinned to that location. Position number 2 would be at the welcome centers, like I have behind me. We always want to have somebody stationed at these welcome centers. In fact, in those high traffic times before and after service, we want to have multiple people there. So having people there, the body is going to know if they have a need, if they want information, if they have questions, lost and found, whatever, they're going to know that this is the place to go find it. We want to make sure that these locations, one on the east side and one on the west side, are properly manned so we can provide that fervent love for the body as they come with questions and needs. And so here's a few things to think about as your responsibilities. You should have a concierge mindset. We talked about it before. You should be thinking about guest services. How can I serve you? And so that should be a question that we're asking people. How can I serve you? It should be a mentality that we have at these stations. So here's a few things that you should think about while serving there. So as you're stationed at the welcome centers, you should be standing not behind the desk. We want to make sure that you're at least on the side or in front of the desk so that you're not putting a barrier between you and the people that you're serving. We want to make sure that we're personal, this is family, this isn't a business. We want to make connection with people. So stand in front of the podiums, look for new guests, see how we can serve them, and make sure that you're meeting their needs. So as you're serving at the welcome centers, you're looking for new guests, you're trying to meet their needs. How may I serve you should be the heart, the mentality. And so we should also be thinking about how you can sign people up to serve. If somebody comes with a need, they want to serve, they want to volunteer. We have a computer here that we can use, you can use, and you should be trained to use to help people find information and to quickly get plugged in to serve. So again, if you're serving at the Welcome Center, you're not pinned down to that location. If you have you encounter somebody that has a need that requires you to show them, we want to make sure that we're not pointing for people. We're trying to explain to them, giving them directions how to find the church reception, that we're actually going to walk them over there. If you do have to point, don't use your finger. That's kind of like a rude way to do it. Give an open hand. It's like right this way, or at least 2 fingers. It's a little less of a intrusive way of showing somebody a direction or pointing at something. So as you're doing that, be flexible, walk people to their destination. As you're walking them, get to know them. Where are you from? How long are you in town for? We're so glad you're here. This is your opportunity to truly connect with people that are coming to church. Another thing that's very important, because there's a laptop connected to our podium, we want to make sure that there's always somebody stationed at this welcome center. So we call that person the anchor. That person has a key to the cabinet here and to the computer. So we want to make sure that that person is there. There's at least one always there, making sure that, number one, that there's always somebody available for guest services, but number 2, just keeping an eye on the computer and the other equipment there. So, and another thing that you're going to encounter is, as people are coming and going from church, people leave their personal items behind all the time. So you're going to have people dropping off lost and found items. I mean, there's even cell phones and car keys and jackets and Bibles and all kinds of things like that. You're going to be trained on how to efficiently and effectively catalog these things and keep them in the lost and found closet, so we'll be able to help out with the lost and found needs. And finally, at the end of services, again, we want everybody to pray about new believers. So if you're here at the welcome station, we need to make sure that there's at least a few people present. But if you're assisting with new believers or you're assisting with communion setup, that's fine. But make sure that there's always somebody present. And we need to make sure that we wait until, especially on a Sunday, there's these inter-service times where one team is leaving and the next team is coming in. We want to make sure that we're passing the torch, if you would, to the next team, making sure that there's always somebody at these stations. A third position is the sanctuary door greeters. So we want to make sure that as people are entering the sanctuary, that we have people there that are warmly welcoming them, handing them the Calvary connections, handing them the other materials that we might be distributing to the body. It's imperative in this position that you be fluent in communicating our policies and procedures, such as what's our heart behind children in the sanctuary, food and drink. What are we doing with that? So there's going to be instructions that are given to you, some of it on this video, that you're going to need to make sure that you're fluent in and clearly able to express to the guests as they're coming to church with the fruit of the Spirit, love and gentleness. In this position, as church services is letting out, it's important that our exit greeting, we're wishing our guests a good day, have a nice day, God bless you, that type of thing. And so if you're not serving in new believers or with communion setup, we want to make sure that you are serving for at least 15 to 20 minutes after the service, is making sure that we greet the congregation as they're leaving. Another thing that you can do is make a sweep of the sanctuary and help pick up materials, help put Bibles back on shelves, that kind of thing. There's plenty of opportunities for you to serve after the service lets out. So what's a typical service day look like? There's a few things that you need to be doing in preparation for service, such as you should be somebody who's a person of prayer. You should be asking God to fill you with His Spirit each and every day. We already went over that. Make sure you do that. Never come in to serve without His indwelling in you so that you can be full of the fruit of the Spirit. Make sure that you're on time for the pre-service meetings. You're connecting with people. Go to those meetings. Connect with your elders. Be discipled. Get the spiritual thoughts for the day. And make sure that you're becoming familiar with events, upcoming events that are on our calendar. Make sure you know what's going on in our church that day so you can efficiently answer questions. So after your pre-service meeting is over, the next thing that you do would be come over to our volunteer check-in station. Make sure that you check in at that station. You might have a badge that you can swipe and check in with, or you can use your phone number to enter in and check in for the day. We also want to be in place at your doors, at your stations, at least 30 minutes prior to the beginning time of each service. Once your service has started, you're in position 30 minutes prior to service. Now you're ready to be flexible tool in the hands of God. And so what does that mean? It can mean a lot of different things. You might find yourself in a situation where there's an overflow situation. Your overseer, your elders, your deacons might say, hey, can you help us in the theater or the banquet halls or whatever? Be flexible. Make sure that these things happen very quickly. We need to make sure that we are flexible and willing to meet those needs as they come about. Be trained in these overflow procedures. Make sure that you understand what is your role? What am I supposed to be doing prior to going to that position? So as you're serving, think outside the box, and we mentioned that already. Be prepared to meet needs of people as they're coming to church. You see somebody that needs prayer, you're a minister, pray with them. And here's what we'd like to see happen. We would really like to see men pray with men and women pray with women. That ministry thing happens very naturally, intrinsically that way. So if you're a guy, you see a lady that's crying, you might see there's something that we can help you with. You want to make sure that you get a deaconess or one of the lady servants to come and help you and assist you and pray with that person. Maybe after you pray with them, you can let the lady take her to one of the benches outside or something like that and minister to her in a deeper way. So service is wrapping up, and you are going to be expected to show up and be there at least 30 minutes after the closing time of that service, whether it be in the new believers room, whether it be communion cleanup or setup, whether it be exit greeting or at one of these welcome stations. There's plenty of opportunities. Make sure that your service's needs are met and that this place is kept in order. We are fervently loving on the people that are coming here as they're coming to church. There's going to be times where you encounter some difficult situations. So we want everybody on our welcome team to memorize 2 phrases that we should have in our hearts and in our minds at all times. Number 1, what's our heart behind small children in the sanctuary? Well, our heart behind church is that everybody comes to church and learns about Jesus at their own level. That is our heart. We should memorize that. Everybody learns about Jesus at their own level. So we have an adult learning facility in the sanctuary, and that's where adults learn about Christ. We have adult translations of the Bible. We have adult prayers. We are learning at an advanced level, learning the Bible, learning about Jesus, learning about how to have a relationship with Him. But Jesus doesn't live in the sanctuary. There's other places on our property where people are being taught about the Bible and how to have a relationship with Christ at their level. This would include kids. We have Calvary Kids, which is an incredible ministry where there's been a tremendous amount of resources poured into this ministry to make it a fantastic learning environment for your children. And so we need to be very fluent in our understanding of what goes on in Calvary Kids and what goes on in 678 or the high school ministry. Be familiar with these places. Be familiar with the actual locations. Be familiar with the people who oversee these ministries so that you can clearly communicate to parents, as we want your child to learn at their level, they're going to have a great time. Here's the thing. A small child comes to the sanctuary. It's an hour and a half. It's a long time for a small child to sit still and to be content. They're not going to learn. In fact, they're going to be bored. Wouldn't you, Mom, and this is something that you can say, wouldn't you prefer that your child have an experience where they're actually going to be learning about Christ at their own level? They're going to actually enjoy coming to church because they have a blast in there. They take these kids over to the theater and they're singing songs and they have dramas going on and they have acting. They have Bible-based characters that they're having a blast. They're singing, they're laughing, they're jumping up and down. It's crazy. Okay, that's kids' church, okay? They're going to look forward to coming to church. They're going to come and you're going to be shocked about how much they're learning about Jesus at their own level. These are all things that we should be able to communicate from our heart, not because it's a head knowledge thing and not because we're trying to keep children out of the sanctuary, but our heart is that your child connect with Jesus today. And so if we communicate that with Mom, she's going to be probably more receptive to bringing her child over there. So statement number 1, we want everybody to learn about Jesus at their own level, okay? Statement number 2, we don't want to ruin anybody's day. And because we want everybody to learn at their level, we want children in Calvary Kids. We want high school students in the high school ministry. We want people to learn at their own level, but never at the expense of ruining somebody's day. Because here's what happens. We have people that are coming from other churches, other denominations, other faiths, And there's a skepticism a lot of times when you're changing churches. We're waiting, we're looking to see about this church and how am I going to fit in here? And so somebody's coming to church and they're bringing their children with them. They're going to want to come into the sanctuary with their kids. They're expecting to come into the sanctuary with their kids. Now, I don't care how you package it. If you're a mommy who's expecting to go to church with her kids today, and you say, hey, I'd like you to take your child to the children's ministry. Mom's thinking, you're trying to separate me from my child? That's not going to fly. So if you find that mom or dad is unwilling and they don't want to, what's a great next question that you can say? Is this your first time here? So your mom's approaching, you say, hi, welcome to Calvary Chapel. Can I show you guys to the children's ministry? I'd love to show you Calvary Kids and what's going on over there. If they say, no, I'd really prefer to go in. We want to go to church with our children. You can say, all right, is this your first time here? And that question is going to give you a tremendous insight onto who it is that you're speaking to. Maybe it's a new family. We really don't want to ruin somebody's day, especially if it's their first time here. And so if that's the case, it's their first time, say, absolutely, come on in. What we're going to do, ma'am, is we're going to provide you a seat in the back of the sanctuary here because it's an hour and a half long service. And if your child needs a break, you have easy access for the doors. And so you can bring your child out into the lobby, get a drink of water, so you have easy access there. That's an opportunity that you're giving to them, not a punishment because they have children, but an opportunity that you're providing for them, a seat towards the back of the sanctuary with their child. We don't want to ruin anybody's day. If it's a new family, go ahead, show them their seat. Make sure that you communicate to the ushers around them so that ushers don't see that child and go approach mom over and over and over again. That gets frustrating for them. Make sure that you communicate with your team as to, hey, I just brought a family in. She's got a small child or whatever, and make sure that they're aware of that. So then you can leave. You can come over here to the welcome centers, grab one of the welcome packets, especially if it's their first time, bring it back to them and say, we're just super glad you're here. Here's a welcome packet with some more information about our church, some coupons for free coffee. God bless you. Enjoy your services. Do you have any questions? So we want to make sure that they feel warmed, they feel welcomed. A great thing to do, if you see mom and dad and a kid, make sure you look at the child in the eyes too. Give little Johnny a high five, something like that. That warms the heart of mom and dad so they see your heart. Your heart is this is my family. This is my church family. And we don't view your children as a distraction. We view your children as our family. And I want to welcome that little Johnny into the house of God the same way I'd welcome my cousins, my nieces, my nephews, or whatever into my house when they come over. So you've brought them in. You've warmly welcomed them. They know you love them. And you've communicated with your team, you've brought them a welcome packet. Make sure, though, if it's their first time, that before you leave, you say, hey, next time you come, we would love the opportunity if you wanted to come in a little early, we'd love to show you the children's ministry, maybe even introduce you to one of the pastors over there or the family ministry representatives over there. We want to show you what we have available for your children's education and relationship with Christ. Sometimes in the moment, we can, under pressure, say things that, oh man, why did I say that? Here's some things not to say. Mommy's approaching, she's got her kids with her. Here's some things that you should not say to mom or dad, all right? Thing number one, I'm sorry, ma'am. Your children would be a distraction in the sanctuary. Don't say that. We never want to tell mom and dad that their child is a distraction. As a parent of small children, I know how that feels. It doesn't feel good. The second thing that you should never say is that the message content in the sanctuary is inappropriate for children. Why not? Why don't we say that? Because at any given time during the service, everywhere else on the campus, the message is being broadcast in the grill and the cafeteria, in the hallways, on the trams, everywhere. You can't get away from the message. We want everybody to hear the gospel. Here's the thing. The message content is not inappropriate for children. It's church. So we don't want to give people the wrong idea of what's actually going on and what's being said inside the sanctuary. Thing number 3 is we never want to say, well, the pastor doesn't want kids in the sanctuary. That's such an easy default. Well, if it were me, if it were my church, I'd let kids in, but pastor doesn't want kids in the sanctuary. And so we never want to throw our pastors under the bus. What is our heart? Our heart is not that children are not allowed in the sanctuary. It's not against the law for children to come into the sanctuary. It's not against Levitical law for the children to come into the sanctuary. It's not against our pastor's law for children to come into sanctuary. The heart is everybody learns about Jesus at their own level. That's our desire. We want to make sure moms and dads know that. So finally, if you're encountering a new family and they are willing to be walked over to the children's ministry, walk them over. Make sure that you take them over, show them the children's ministry. You can either introduce them to one of the children's ministry representatives, or sometimes they're all busy. You can walk them right over to the computer and help them check in yourself. I mean, being familiar with the child check-in system of Calvary Kids is very important, and we're going to suggest that you understand how to do that and understand how to assist guests that are bringing kids for the first time. So here's another challenging situation. When there's strollers that people bring, maybe there's a child, it's a first timer, we want to make sure that we bring them in. If they have a small child, hopefully they're going to be in the back. We definitely don't want them up in the front, because it's probably going to happen where their child's going to want to have a break, and then they're going to be up and at it, throughout the service. So you have a stroller, somebody with a small child in the back. It's actually against our fire code for us to have a stroller or any device in the aisles of the sanctuary. So we want to make sure that on the east and on the west sides that we encourage a mom that might come in, or a dad with a stroller, that we have that stroller parked in the vestibule inside the east or west lobby. So challenging situation number 3. There's a lot of times where people want to bring food or drink into the sanctuary. And so check with your overseer to see what the policy is in regards to food and drink and coffee and things like that. For certain, bottled water is allowed in. We don't want to stop anybody from bringing bottled water in, but check with your overseers to make sure that you understand clearly what is and is not allowed in the sanctuary. And here's the thing. Again, we never want to ruin somebody's day. So if somebody's going to get real bent out of shape by them leaving their leftovers from the grill outside, we don't want to ruin their day, but at the same time, we need to keep an orderly sanctuary. So here's something that you can keep in mind with the food or drink thing, or with any policy that might be challenging. We need to understand how the human mind works a little bit. And it's always beneficial for you as a greeter who's going to try to keep an orderly sanctuary, to always give people information on what they can do versus what they can't do. If we focus on positive and what opportunities they have, such as, what can you do? You can leave your shrimp scampi in your car, or I can take it from you if you wish and discard it for you. Here's a trash can. These are all things that they can do, instead of saying you're not allowed or you can't. We don't want to use words like that. They're not hospitable. They're not warm. They're not welcoming. So make sure that you're letting your folks know, your people know what their options are versus what they're not allowed to do. So in closing, I just wanted everybody to know, anybody who's watching this video who's going to serve in the hospitality ministry, we don't want to just create a really good usher and greeter team. We want to make disciples. That's our mandate biblically. It's what Christ has asked us to do. I mean, movie theaters have ushers and greeters. That's not the goal. The goal is that as we're doing hospitality, as we're fervently loving the body as they come to church, you are getting discipled. And there's that 3 tiers of discipleship. There should be somebody that's pouring into you. You should have an accountability partner that's maybe shoulder to shoulder on the same spiritual level. And there should be somebody that you pray about discipling, somebody that you're pouring into. Have a Timothy, to use a biblical example. And so your overseers, your elders, they're your shepherds. They are the people that God has put in your life to be a leader in the church, somebody who's sound in doctrine, somebody who's a shepherd, who's willing to pray for you, who's willing to give you their phone number, that's available for you when you have a family situation. or a struggle or a need or whatever, contact them, call them, ask them, tell them, what are your ministry ambitions? What is it that you're interested in? We want to see you grow. And so there's discipleship opportunities that are available to you. So ask your overseers what those opportunities are and make sure that you're plugged in and not just coming in to serve for a couple hours a week and then going home and having no connection with the church outside of that. So as you grow in your spiritual walk, we want to come alongside of you and help you do that, provide those discipleship opportunities for you. If you just signed up to serve and you're seeing this video for the first time, there's going to be a link below that's going to appear. Please type that into your browser, take the survey. The purpose of that is so that we can make sure that we're doing our job to inform you on how to be more an effective and efficient servant in the house of the Lord. So I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this training video. Thank you for taking the time to serve the Lord with all of your heart. I know and trust that you're going to be blessed through it. God bless you.